The massive council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a structure so vast that entire cities could fit within its gleaming walls. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the human podium, her hands folded behind her back as she gazed at the 12 ancient races that formed the Galactic Council. Each species sat on elevated platforms, looking down at her with expressions that ranged from curiosity to barely concealed contempt. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times. Humanity's first true appearance before the galaxy's ruling body, the chamber itself was designed to intimidate, with holographic displays showing the vast territories controlled by each council member. Compared to their empires that spanned hundreds of worlds, Earth's small collection of colonies looked pathetically insignificant. "We welcome Earth to the community of civilized species," announced Councillor Vexthan, a towering creature with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. His voice echoed through the chamber with the weight of authority. "You will find that we maintain order through established protocols. War, when it occurs, is conducted with honor and restraint." Sarah nodded slowly. She had read the protocols extensively. Single-ship duels when disputes arose. No targeting of civilian populations. Formal declarations of combat intent. Withdrawal options for the losing side. It all seemed very neat and organized, like a game with clearly defined rules. "We appreciate the welcome," Sarah replied, her voice amplified across the enormous space. "Humanity is honored to join this council and will abide by your regulations regarding conflict." A low rumble of approval went through the chamber. The species of the galaxy had enjoyed relative peace for over 3,000 years. Their wars were limited affairs, more like sporting events than the total conflicts that had marked their violent pasts. They had evolved beyond such savagery, or so they believed. Then Councillor Zarkoth spoke. He represented the Carthon Dominion, a military society that had earned its council seat through a long history of honorable combat. His species resembled great reptilian warriors, with thick scales and eyes that glowed with inner fire. "The Carthon Dominion has territorial interests that overlap with 3 human colony worlds," Zarkoth announced. "New Perth, Armstrong Station, and Kepler 7. These worlds lie within our traditional expansion zone. We formally request that humanity cede these territories." Sarah felt her jaw tighten. Those 3 colonies held over 2 million human civilians, families, children, people who had traveled light years to build new lives. "Those worlds are inhabited by human citizens," Sarah said carefully. "We cannot simply abandon them." Zarkoth made a dismissive gesture. "Then we will resolve this matter through proper channels. Combat trial, as is our right under council law." The other councillors nodded. This was standard procedure. 2 species had a dispute. They would send champion ships to fight according to strict rules, and the winner would gain the territory. Civilized, controlled. Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment her superiors had prepared her for. "Before we proceed," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs, "I must deliver a warning to this council." Silence fell across the chamber. Warnings were not typically part of these proceedings. "Humanity comes from a world unlike most in this galaxy," Sarah continued. "We evolved as persistence predators. Our entire history has been marked by warfare. Not the ritualized combat you practice, but total war. War for survival, war for resources, war between ideologies. We have developed weapons and tactics that would horrify this council." She paused, making eye contact with each councillor in turn. "We agreed to follow your protocols because we want peace. We want to be part of this galactic community. But I must be clear, if forced into conflict, humanity is capable of warfare far beyond what you have experienced in your 3,000 years of limited engagement." Councillor Vexthan's expression shifted to something resembling amusement. "Ambassador Chen, all species believe they are uniquely fierce. This is natural, but we have established these protocols precisely because unrestricted warfare leads only to mutual destruction. You will find our methods both efficient and humane." "With respect, Counselor," Sarah pressed, "you have not faced an opponent who understands warfare the way humanity does. We have fought ourselves for thousands of years. We know every trick, every strategy, every psychological pressure point. We know how to break supply lines, how to wage economic warfare, how to turn enemy populations against their leaders. We know things you have forgotten if you ever knew them at all." Zarkoth laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "The human speaks boldly for such a young species. Perhaps a demonstration is in order." We challenge Earth to combat for the 3 disputed worlds. Single ship duel as is proper. Let us see if your warriors match your words. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. She saw the confidence in his glowing eyes, the certainty of a species that had never truly lost. The Carthons had the best military record in the galaxy, winning 80% of their combat trials. They had superior technology, ships that had been refined over millennia. We accept, Sarah said quietly. But remember that I warned you. We will follow your rules as long as you follow them. But if those rules break down, if civilian lives are threatened, we will respond with methods you are not prepared for. Duly noted, Vexthun said with a tone that suggested he considered the warning meaningless posturing. The combat trial will commence in 30 standard days at the New Perth system. May the worthiest species prevail. The other counselors murmured their agreement. To them this was routine. Another young species learning its place in the galactic order. The Carthons would win, humanity would cede the territories, and the new members would understand how things worked. Sarah left the chamber with her small diplomatic team. Once they were safely aboard their shuttle and heading back to the human embassy station, her aide, Lieutenant David Park, spoke up. They didn't take you seriously. No, Sarah agreed, staring out at the stars. They didn't. Will command authorize restraint? Park asked. Will we really fight by their rules? Sarah was quiet for a moment. She thought about the briefings she had received before taking this position. The classified reports on Earth's actual military capabilities, the weapon systems that made galactic technology look primitive, the strategic doctrines developed through centuries of human conflict. We'll follow their rules in the initial engagement, Sarah said finally. We gave our word and humanity keeps its promises. But if the Carthons break those rules, if they threaten our civilians or escalate beyond the agreed parameters. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Back on Earth, the military command was already mobilizing. Ships were being prepared. Not just the single champion vessel required for the duel, but entire fleets held in reserve. Contingency plans were being updated. Rules of engagement were being drafted for multiple scenarios. Humanity had tried to warn them. The warning had been ignored. That would be the galaxy's first mistake. It would not be their last. The 30-day countdown had begun, and with it, the galaxy's peaceful era was approaching an end that none of its elder species could yet imagine. They had lived so long in their carefully controlled conflicts that they had forgotten what real war looked like. They were about to remember. The sky above New Perth burned with the light of combat. Captain James Rodriguez watched from the colony's command center as the human champion ship, the Defiant, engaged the Carthon vessel in orbit. Both ships followed the ancient protocols exactly, circling each other in a deadly dance that would have looked beautiful if so many lives did not depend on the outcome. Their shields are holding, his tactical officer reported. Our weapons are having minimal effect, James nodded grimly. The Carthons had superior technology, just as intelligence had predicted. Their shields could absorb more damage, their weapons fired faster, and their ship moved with a grace that suggested thousands of years of refinement. Defiant is taking heavy damage, the communications officer announced. Captain Miller is requesting permission to withdraw. James picked up the communication link. Permission granted. Follow protocol and signal honorable retreat. On the screen, the Defiant began broadcasting the standard withdrawal codes. According to galactic law, the Carthon ship should cease fire and allow the defeated vessel to leave the battlefield. The combat trial would be over, and humanity would cede the 3 worlds. For a moment it seemed the Carthons would follow procedure. Their fire slackened as the Defiant turned away. Then something changed. Sir, the Carthon ship is pursuing, the tactical officer said, confusion in his voice. They're continuing to fire. What? James stood up, staring at the display. We transmitted the withdrawal codes. They should have stopped. The Defiant's shields collapsed under the continued assault. The ship began breaking apart, its hull breaching in multiple locations. Emergency pods launched, carrying the survivors away from the dying vessel. The Carthons are targeting the escape. Pods, someone whispered in horror. James watched in disbelief as the Carthon ship picked off the defenseless pods one by one. This was not just a violation of withdrawal protocol. This was murder. The kind of atrocity that galactic law had been designed to prevent. Get me a channel to that ship, James ordered. Now! The communication opened, showing Commander Zarkoth's face. He looked pleased with himself. "You dare to question Carthon honor?" he snarled when James demanded an explanation. "You withdrew because you were weak? In true combat, there is no retreat. You agreed to the protocols," James shot back. "You're violating council law." "Council law is for those who deserve to exist," Zarkoth replied. "Your species is inferior. You will surrender these worlds, or we will take them by force." The transmission ended. James stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing. Then the alarms began blaring. "Multiple Carthon ships entering orbit," the tactical officer announced. "They're deploying ground forces." "This is insane," someone muttered. "They can't just invade. The council will intervene." But no intervention came. The Carthon warriors descended to New Perth in their dropships, landing near the colony's main population centers. They had come for an honorable ground battle, expecting the humans to line up and face them in open combat. What they found instead was a city of 200,000 terrified civilians and a garrison of only 3,000 human soldiers. Captain Maria Santos commanded the ground defense. She had deployed her forces in defensive positions around the city, following the same protocols that governed space combat. Her soldiers waited in their designated combat zones, ready for the ritualized ground battle. The Carthons advanced in formation, their heavy armor gleaming in the afternoon sun. They were magnificent warriors, each one standing over 2 meters tall, armed with weapons that could slice through concrete. Maria's forces opened fire from their positions. The battle raged for 3 hours, with both sides taking casualties. The Carthons were stronger and better equipped, but the human soldiers fought with a desperation that surprised them. Then a Carthon heavy weapons team fired a plasma cannon at what they believed was a military bunker. It was a school. The building collapsed in a ball of fire. Inside were 43 children and their teachers, taking shelter from the battle that raged outside. None of them survived. Maria received the report over her command channel. For a moment she could not speak, could not think, could only feel the rage building inside her chest like a physical pressure. "Ma'am," her executive officer said quietly, "standing orders are to maintain protocol." Maria looked at him, looked at her soldiers, many of whom were parents themselves, looked at the smoke rising from what had been a school filled with children just minutes ago. "Not anymore," she said. "New orders. Unrestricted combat. Use every advantage we have," her XO understood immediately. "Ma'am, if we abandon the protocols, the council will—" "I don't care about the council," Maria snapped. "Those bastards just killed children. Get me command. Get me Earth. Tell them the rules are done." The message reached Earth 10 minutes later, traveling through the quantum communication network at faster than light speed. It arrived in the middle of the emergency session of the UN Defense Council, where military leaders and civilian officials were already debating what to do about the Carthon violations. Admiral Marcus Webb read the report in silence. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat in his 50-year career. He had fought in the colony wars, in the Mars Rebellion, and a dozen smaller conflicts. He knew war in all its terrible forms. "They killed children," someone said unnecessarily. Admiral Webb stood up. He walked to the display showing the battle on New Perth, where human forces were still trying to fight by rules that their enemy had abandoned. "For 3,000 years, the galaxy has played at war," he said quietly. "They made it safe, predictable. They forgot what it really means." He turned to face the council. "They wanted to see what human warfare looks like. I say we show them." "Admiral," the Secretary General of the United Nations said carefully, "if we abandon the protocols, we risk our standing in the galactic community. We could be expelled from the council, face sanctions, even military intervention from other species." "Then let them intervene," Webb replied. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "We tried their way. We followed their rules. They couldn't even follow their own." He paused. "They killed our children. That's a line that once crossed cannot be uncrossed." The vote was swift, unanimous. The rules of engagement for human forces were changed with a single phrase. Unrestricted warfare authorized. Admiral Webb immediately contacted Captain Santos on New Perth. "Captain, you are authorized to engage the enemy using all available methods and tactics. No restrictions. Win this battle." Maria smiled, though there was no humor in it. "Understood, sir." "With pleasure." She turned to her forces. All units, new orders. Stop fighting like this is a game. Fight like this is Earth. Fight like these are our homes. Because they are. What happened next would shock the galaxy. The human soldiers abandoned their fixed positions. They stopped lining up for honorable combat. Instead, they melted into the city itself, using every building, every alley, every shadow. The Carthon suddenly found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see. Snipers fired from windows and disappeared before return fire could be directed. Improvised explosives detonated under advancing units. Small teams of soldiers struck from unexpected angles, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. This was urban warfare, something the Carthons had never experienced. Their honor-bound tactics, designed for open battle, meant nothing in the close confines of a human city, where every corner could hide an ambush. Within 6 hours, the Carthon ground forces were in full retreat, having lost 30% of their strength to an enemy that refused to fight fair. In orbit, more human ships were arriving. Not single champions, but entire battle groups. The Carthon fleet commander demanded to know why humanity was violating the single-ship protocol. Admiral, Webb's response was broadcast across every galactic frequency. You wanted war with us. You got it. But not the war you expected. Not the war you prepared for. You're getting a human war now, and we are very, very good at those. The galaxy was watching. And for the first time in 3,000 years, they felt something they had almost forgotten. Fear. The Carthon military complex on Outpost Sigma 9 had stood for 200 years without ever facing a real threat. Its shields were powerful, its weapons formidable, but its commanders had grown comfortable in the long peace. They expected enemies to announce their intentions, to approach from predictable vectors, to fight according to rules everyone understood. They did not expect the asteroid. It came out of nowhere. A chunk of rock and ice 300 meters across, moving at impossible speeds. By the time the Carthon sensors detected it, there was less than 30 seconds to respond. The shields activated, but they were designed to stop energy weapons and missiles, not solid objects with the kinetic energy of a nuclear weapon. The asteroid hit with the force of 50 megatons. The entire military complex ceased to exist in an instant, taking with it 3,000 Carthon warriors and all their equipment. 2 star systems away, Commander Rachel Kim watched the impact on her tactical display and allowed herself a small smile. Kinetic kill confirmed, her weapons officer reported. Target destroyed. 1 down, Rachel said. Mark the next target and begin approach. Her ship, the Phantom, was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. It was not designed for honorable combat. It was designed for stealth, for surprise, for hitting enemies who never saw it coming. Its hull absorbed sensor sweeps instead of reflecting them. Its engines ran cold, producing minimal heat signature. It could drift through space like a ghost. The galaxy had forgotten that warships could be built this way. They had forgotten a lot of things. Across 3 star systems, human forces were teaching them to remember. Admiral Webb's strategy was simple and brutal. The Carthon Dominion controlled 47 worlds and had military installations on 2/3 of them. They expected humanity to attack these installations in proper military fashion, announcing intentions and engaging in formal combat. Instead, humanity hit their supply lines. Transport ships carrying food, ammunition, and replacement parts began disappearing. They would enter a shipping lane and simply vanish, never reaching their destinations. Carthon military commanders started receiving reports of shortages, of equipment breaking down without spare parts, of soldiers going hungry because supply shipments never arrived. When they sent warships to escort the transports, those warships were ambushed by human packs that struck from multiple angles, disabled engines and weapons, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. This is not warfare, Counselor Zarkoth protested to the Galactic Council. This is piracy. This is cowardice. Ambassador Chen, watching via holographic link from the human embassy, responded calmly. This is efficiency. You wanted to see how humans fight. We are showing you. The Carthons tried to adapt. They increased patrols, strengthened escorts, changed routes. But for every adjustment they made, humanity was 3 steps ahead. Captain David Chen commanded a hunter group of 6 ships, each one small and fast. His orders were to disrupt Carthon operations in the Theta sector, and he was very good at his job. Target is a supply depot on Carthon 3. He briefed his team. 50,000 tons of military supplies, minimal guard force. They think the location is secret. How did we find it? His tactical officer asked. David smiled. We hacked their communication network 2 weeks ago. We've been reading their mail ever since. Electronic warfare, cyber attacks, information dominance. These were concepts the galactic military had never developed. Why would they need to? Everyone fought honestly, face to face, according to rules. But humans had fought each other for so long that they had learned every dirty trick, every underhanded method, every way to gain an advantage. They had hacked each other's systems, stolen each other's secrets, and turned information into a weapon. Now they turned those weapons on an enemy that had no defense against them. David's ships jumped into the Carthon 3 system and broadcast a message on all frequencies before the defenders could even respond. This is the human ship Ranger. In exactly 30 minutes, we will destroy the military supply depot at coordinates X445, Y782. All civilian personnel should evacuate immediately. This is your only warning. The message caused immediate panic. Carthon commanders evacuated the depot, not knowing whether this was a bluff or a genuine threat. They scrambled their defense forces, preparing to intercept the attack. The attack never came. Instead, David's ships hit a completely different target on the other side of the planet, a communications hub that had been left unguarded when all the defenders rushed to protect the supply depot. Psychological warfare, David explained to his confused crew. Make them afraid. Make them second guess. Make them waste resources protecting targets we never intended to hit. This happened across Carthon territory. Human forces would announce attacks that never came, then strike where least expected. They would feint in one direction and attack in another. They would offer truces and then attack during negotiations. They would surrender and then fight harder than before. Nothing was predictable. Nothing was fair. Nothing followed the rules. The Carthon military, built on 3,000 years of honorable combat, began to fracture under the pressure. We cannot fight this way, one Carthon admiral told his subordinates. We do not even understand this way. His subordinate, a younger warrior who had studied human history, replied grimly, They call it total war. War without limits. War without honor. War where the only thing that matters is winning. But why? The admiral asked. Why fight so viciously? Why not maintain honor even in combat? Because they fought themselves for thousands of years, the subordinate explained. Every war was a war for survival. They learned that the species that fights fairly is the species that dies. So they learned to fight unfairly better than anyone else. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park led a special operations team on a mission that would have been unthinkable to galactic military doctrine. Her team of 12 soldiers infiltrated a Carthon command station by hijacking a supply shuttle. They wore captured Carthon uniforms. They carried forged identification codes. They had even modified their appearance to approximate Carthon features from a distance. Infiltration was a word that did not exist in galactic military vocabulary. You fought your enemy face to face. You did not sneak around pretending to be them. But Sarah's team walked right into the heart of the command station, their fake credentials fooling security systems that had never been designed to catch infiltrators, because infiltrators simply did not exist in galactic warfare. Once inside, they planted surveillance devices in every major communication hub. They copied classified battle plans. They identified the locations of every major Carthon military asset. Then they walked back out again and no one ever knew they had been there. This is impossible, Counselor Zarkoth said when he learned that humans had detailed intelligence on Carthon military positions. Our security is absolute. Your security assumes your enemies will attack from outside, Ambassador Chen replied. You never considered that they might already be inside. The Carthon Dominion sent increasingly desperate requests to the Galactic Council. This was not warfare as they understood it. This was something else entirely, something ancient and terrible that the galaxy had not seen since before the protocols were established. Counselor Vexton called an emergency session. Humanity must cease these operations immediately, he demanded. You are violating every principle of civilized combat. Admiral Webb attended this session personally, his image projected into the council chamber. We are violating nothing, he said calmly. We agreed to follow your protocols. The Carthons broke those protocols when they killed our children. The agreement ended at that moment. Now we fight our way. Your way is barbaric, another counselor protested. Sneaking, lying, attacking without warning. These are not the methods of an honorable species. You are correct, Webb agreed. These are the methods of a species that wins. We learned long ago that honor is a luxury you can only afford when survival is guaranteed. When your existence is threatened, you use every weapon, every tactic, every advantage available, because the alternative is extinction. He paused, his eyes scanning the council members. We tried to warn you, he continued. We told you that humanity understood warfare in ways you had forgotten. You dismissed that warning. You thought we were just another young species that needed to learn its place. You were wrong. The council erupted in argument. Some species demanded that humanity be expelled. Others suggested military intervention. A few, the younger species who had chafed under council authority, remained silent and thoughtful. Then Councillor Zarkoth made the fatal announcement. The Carthon Dominion requests council authorization for unrestricted retaliation against human forces. If they will not fight with honor, we will crush them with overwhelming force. The vote was called. 8 species voted in favor. 3 abstained. 1 voted against. The authorization passed. The Carthon Dominion began marshalling its full military might. Not the limited forces they had sent to New Perth, but their entire fleet. Hundreds of ships prepared to invade human space and end this upstart species once and for all. They expected humanity to panic, to surrender, to beg for mercy. Instead, Admiral Webb issued a statement that would echo through galactic history. You had 2 warnings. You ignored them both. Now you will see what happens when humanity stops holding back. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on you, because we will not. Earth's hidden fleets began to move. The galaxy was about to learn what real war looked like. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been in progress for 6 hours, and tempers were rising. Holographic displays around the chamber showed the ongoing conflict between humanity and the Carthon Dominion. Every council member could see the reports flooding in from across Carthon territory. Military installations destroyed. Supply chains disrupted. Communication networks compromised. Fleets ambushed and scattered. In 3 weeks of unrestricted warfare, humanity had reduced Carthon military effectiveness by 40%. This cannot continue, Councillor Vexthan declared, his forearms gesturing emphatically. The humans have destabilized the entire sector. If we do not act, the peace we have maintained for 3 millennia will collapse. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the human podium, her expression calm despite the hostile atmosphere. She had not slept properly in days, but she refused to show weakness before this council. May I present evidence to this assembly? She asked. Vexthan looked annoyed but nodded. Proceed. Sarah activated her display. Images filled the chamber, detailed recordings from New Perth. The Defiant being destroyed after signaling withdrawal. Escape pods being targeted. The school burning with children inside. The Carthon Dominion broke the protocols first, Sarah said, her voice echoing through the vast space. They murdered defenseless crew members who had surrendered. They killed children in what they knew was a civilian target. We have testimony, recordings, and sensor logs proving these violations. Mistakes in the heat of battle, Zarkoth growled. War is never perfect. Then by your own logic, our methods are also imperfect, Sarah countered. The difference is that we attack military targets. We evacuate civilians when possible. We have not deliberately targeted non-combatants. Every installation we have destroyed was a legitimate military objective. Councillor Mir Shah, representing one of the smaller council species, spoke up. The issue is not what you target, Ambassador. It is how you target it. Your methods are deceptive. Your tactics are underhanded. You do not announce your attacks. You do not fight honorably. Sarah turned to face Mir Shah directly. Honorably? Your protocols were designed to minimize casualties and prevent total war. We are achieving both goals. Carthon civilian casualties are less than 500. Military casualties are under 20,000. In a traditional war with our capabilities, those numbers would be in the millions. She pulled up another display, showing casualty projections. If we fought the way you insist, the way our full military capacity would allow, both sides would suffer catastrophic losses. We are showing restraint. We are being precise. We are being efficient. The only thing we are not being is predictable. The council murmured among themselves. Some seemed to consider her words. Others remained hostile. Then Sarah delivered her second warning. This council needs to understand something, she said, her voice dropping to a quieter register that somehow carried more weight. You have seen us fight according to your rules. You have seen us fight according to our rules. You have not seen us when we stop holding back completely. What does that mean? Fexthon demanded. It means that everything you have witnessed so far is humanity being restrained, Sarah replied. We have used conventional weapons, conventional tactics, conventional warfare. We have not deployed our strategic weapons. We have not mobilized our full military capacity. We have not shown you what we are truly capable of. Admiral Webb's image appeared beside Sarah's podium, adding his presence to her words. Earth has spent 300 years preparing for the worst, Webb said. We prepared for alien invasion. We prepared for total war. We built weapons systems that make galactic technology look primitive. We developed strategic doctrines that none of you have even imagined. We did this because we learned through our own bloody history that the species that prepares for peace but cannot wage war is the species that gets conquered. He let that sink in for a moment before continuing. Right now, this is a limited conflict. We are using a fraction of our available forces. We are holding back our most powerful weapons. We are trying to resolve this situation without catastrophic escalation, but if this council decides to intervene militarily against humanity, if you decide to make this an existential threat to our species, then we will respond with everything we have. Is that a threat? Councillor Zarkoth roared, rising from his seat. It is a promise, Webb replied calmly. We tried to warn you before this started. You dismissed us as young and ignorant. We are warning you again now. Do not make this bigger than it already is. The council erupted in argument. Some species demanded immediate action against human aggression. Others counseled caution. A few of the younger species began questioning whether the old protocols still served their interests. During a recess, Sarah received a private communication from Ambassador Telshar of the Quilson Commonwealth, one of the smaller species represented on the council. Ambassador Chen, Telshar said quietly, My government wishes to convey that we do not support intervention against humanity. Privately, many of us have long felt that the council's authority is excessive. Sarah was surprised. Why have you never said anything? Because the elder species control the council, Telshar replied. They make the rules. They enforce the protocols. They decide who is civilized and who is not. Your species has shown that their authority can be challenged. That is a revelation, Sarah understood. The galactic order was not as stable as it appeared. Younger species resented the control exercised by the ancient empires. Humanity's defiance had exposed cracks in the system. On Earth, a global referendum was taking place. Every human citizen was being asked a simple question. Should humanity submit to Galactic Council authority, or should they maintain independence even if it meant continued conflict? The results came in quickly. 78% voted for independence. Humanity had been searching the stars for other intelligent life for centuries. They had dreamed of joining a galactic community. But they had also learned through hard experience that freedom was worth fighting for. President Alexandra Morrison addressed Earth and its colonies in a broadcast that was transmitted to every human settlement. We came to the stars seeking friendship, she said. We hoped to find our place among the civilized species of the galaxy. We were willing to adapt, to compromise, to follow rules we never had a hand in making. But we will not submit to a system that allows the strong to victimize the weak, that allows children to be murdered without consequence, that demands we abandon our right to self-defense. She paused, her expression resolute. The Galactic Council has given us an ultimatum. Submit or face intervention. My fellow humans, we do not submit. We did not fight our way to the stars only to bow before another empire. Whatever comes next, we face it as we have always faced adversity. Together, unified and unafraid, the broadcast ended. Across human space, military forces prepared for the possibility of war with the entire Galactic Council. But something unexpected happened. 3 of the younger species on the Council quietly reached out to human diplomats. They offered intelligence on Council military capabilities. They offered to abstain from any intervention vote. They offered in whispers and encrypted channels something like solidarity. The old order was fracturing. Back in the council chamber, the final vote was called. 8 species voted to authorize a peacekeeping fleet, to enforce council authority and protect the Carthon Dominion from human aggression. 3 species abstained. 1 species voted against. The authorization passed. Councillor Vexthon addressed the assembly. A peacekeeping fleet of 200 ships representing 8 council species will proceed to human space. They will establish a blockade and enforce a ceasefire. Humanity will be given 24 hours to stand down their military forces and accept council mediation. Admiral Webb's image appeared one final time. You were warned, he said simply. Twice, remember that in the days ahead. The transmission ended. The peacekeeping fleet began to assemble, drawing ships from across council space. 200 warships representing the combined might of 8 ancient civilizations. They expected humanity to back down when faced with such overwhelming force. They expected fear and submission. They were about to learn their final lesson about humanity. In hidden shipyards throughout the Sol system, in orbital platforms around Jupiter and Saturn, in underground bases on Luna and Mars, Earth's true military power began to reveal itself. Ships that had been hidden for decades activated their systems. Weapons platforms came online. Defense grids powered up. Earth had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment, preparing for the day when they would face the galaxy alone. They had hoped it would never come. But now that it had, they were ready. Admiral Webb stood in the command center of the orbital defense station above Earth, watching the tactical displays as the peacekeeping fleet approached the edge of the solar system. All stations report ready, his second-in-command reported. Webb nodded slowly. He thought about the families on Earth below, the colonies scattered across human space, the children who deserved to grow up free, the future that hung in the balance. Then let us show them, he said quietly, what it means to threaten humanity. Orders were transmitted across the entire human defensive network. From the edge of the solar system to the inner planets, Earth's hidden strength prepared to reveal itself. The galaxy had voted for war. Now they would learn what war with humanity truly meant. The peacekeeping fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, in perfect formation. 200 warships from 8 different species, representing 3,000 years of galactic military tradition. They had come to teach humanity a lesson about respecting council authority. Fleet Commander Velkaris of the Gen Collective commanded the operation from his flagship, the Eternal Justice. He was confident. No single species had ever successfully resisted a council peacekeeping operation. The combined military might arrayed before him was overwhelming. Scan the system, he ordered. Locate all human military assets. His sensor officers worked in silence for several minutes. Then they began reporting contacts. Many contacts, too many contacts. Commander, I am detecting multiple ship signatures throughout the inner system, the lead sensor officer reported, confusion in her voice. Hundreds of vessels, orbital platforms, weapons satellites. The numbers do not match our intelligence estimates. Velkaris felt the first stirring of unease. How many ships? The sensor officer rechecked her displays. At least 3,000, sir. Possibly more. Many of the signatures are unlike anything in our databases. 3,000 ships. The intelligence reports had suggested humanity possessed perhaps 200 combat vessels. This was impossible. They must be civilian ships trying to appear military, Velkaris decided. Humans are known for deception. Admiral Webb's face appeared on every view screen in the fleet simultaneously. The human looked tired but determined. Fleet Commander Velkaris, this is Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Nations Defense Force. You have entered Sol system with hostile intent. You have 20 minutes to reverse course and leave this system. This is your only warning. Velkaris activated his response channel. Admiral Webb, we are here under Council authority to enforce a ceasefire and establish a peacekeeping presence. You cannot threaten us with obsolete vessels and empty bluster. Surrender your command and accept Council mediation. Webb's expression did not change. You have 19 minutes. The transmission ended. Velkaris turned to his command staff. Ignore the theatrics. Advance into the system and establish orbital control around Earth. They will surrender once they see we are serious. The fleet began moving inward, maintaining tight formation. It was impressive, coordinated, the result of millennia of military tradition. Then the solar system came alive. The first indication was a proximity alert. Something was approaching the fleet at impossible speeds. Not one thing. Hundreds of things. Kinetic projectiles incoming. The tactical officer shouted. They are too fast, we cannot. The impacts came like hammer blows. Chunks of metal and ice moving at significant fractions of light speed. Launched from railguns positioned throughout the outer system. They tore through shields designed to stop energy weapons. 3 council ships were destroyed outright. A dozen more were severely damaged. Return fire. Velkaris ordered. At what, sir? The weapons officer responded desperately. The projectiles came from multiple vectors. We cannot locate the launch platforms. Then the human ships appeared. They did not announce themselves. They did not approach from predictable vectors. They came from behind asteroids, from within debris fields, from impossible angles. And they came in packs working together with a coordination that should not have been possible without FTL communication. Each human ship was smaller than a council vessel, but they moved faster, turned sharper, and their weapons hit harder than anything Velkaris had encountered. They did not engage in single combat. They swarmed, 6 or 8 ships focusing on one council vessel, overwhelming its defenses through sheer coordinated firepower. This is insane, someone whispered on the command deck. How are they coordinating without visible communication? AI-assisted tactical networks, the intelligence officer reported, having accessed the database. The humans integrated artificial intelligence into their combat systems. Each ship is linked to every other ship in real time. That was illegal under council law. AI warfare had been banned for 2,000 years after the machine wars nearly destroyed galactic civilization, but humanity had not been part of the galaxy during the machine wars. They had developed their own technology, their own methods, their own rules. Implement defensive pattern Theta, Velkaris ordered. Focus fire on individual targets. We still outnumber them. The council fleet tried to adapt, but human tactics continued to evolve faster than they could respond. When the council ships grouped together for mutual defense, human forces attacked their formation with directed energy weapons that penetrated shields. When they spread out to cover more area, human packs isolated and destroyed individual vessels, and the humans were everywhere. Ships that had seemed to retreat would circle back and attack from behind. Damaged vessels would limp away only to rejoin the fight minutes later, their crews having performed repairs that should have taken hours. Small craft launched from Earth's orbital platforms too numerous to track, harassing larger council vessels like insects. Within 2 hours, the council fleet had lost 47 ships. The humans had lost 12. We are being slaughtered, Velkaris' second-in-command said quietly. Commander, we must withdraw. We cannot withdraw, Velkaris replied, though his hearts were heavy. The council authorized this action. To retreat would be to admit defeat. Then what do we do? Before Velkaris could answer, every system on the Eternal Justice went dark. Lights, weapons, shields, propulsion, everything failed simultaneously. Across the fleet, the same thing was happening to every ship. Some unseen attack had crippled them all. Admiral Webb's face appeared again, this time on emergency backup screens. You came here with 200 ships, Webb said. We have disabled all of them. Your crews are unharmed, and we will provide life support until you can effect repairs. But your weapons are offline and will remain offline. He paused. You asked what happens when humanity stops holding back. This is what happens. The cyber attack you just experienced propagated through your fleet communication network in under 3 seconds. We have been inside your systems since you entered the solar system. We could have killed every person on every ship. We chose not to. Velkaris stared at the screen in horror, a cyber weapon that could disable an entire fleet simultaneously. This was beyond anything in galactic military doctrine. You have seen a fraction of our capability, Webb continued. Our strategic weapons remain unused. Our main battle fleets have not engaged. The orbital defense platforms around Earth have not fired a shot. We have fought this battle with our screening forces alone. Across the fleet, council commanders were receiving the same message, receiving the same terrible realization. The war with the Carthon Dominion is over, Webb announced. Our fleets are currently surrounding their homeworld. We have disabled their orbital defenses, destroyed their military infrastructure, and established complete space superiority. We could bombard their planet into submission. We have chosen not to. He looked directly at the camera, as if he could see Velkaris personally. We integrated into your society in good faith. We followed your rules. We wanted peace. You chose to make this existential. You chose to threaten our homeworld. We warned you twice. You did not listen. The transmission ended. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge of the Eternal Justice. Then slowly, inevitably, Velkaris activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships cease offensive operations. Begin damage control and await instructions. It was not a surrender. Not formally, but everyone understood what it meant. On the Carthon homeworld, Councillor Zarkoth stood on a balcony overlooking his capital city. Above, human warships maintained position in geosynchronous orbit, their weapons trained on military targets across the planet. They had arrived 6 hours ago, sweeping aside the home fleet as if it were nothing. A human shuttle descended to the capital, carrying an officer with terms. The terms were harsh but not vengeful. The Carthon Dominion would surrender all claims to human territory. They would pay reparations for damages. They would accept human observers to ensure compliance, but there would be no occupation, no subjugation, no destruction of their civilization. Why? Zarkoth asked the human officer, a young woman with cold eyes. Why not destroy us? You have the power. Because we are not you, she replied. We wage war to achieve objectives, not to satisfy honor or pride. Our objective was to secure our territory and prevent future aggression. We have achieved that. Destroying your civilization serves no purpose. That is strategic thinking, Zarkoth said slowly, understanding dawning. You see war as a tool, not a ritual. Exactly, the officer confirmed. You made war into a game. We never forgot what it really is. The peace negotiations took 6 days. Representatives from the Galactic Council, chastened and shocked, mediated the final agreement. The war officially ended with the Treaty of New Perth, named for the colony where it had all begun. The terms reshaped galactic politics. Humanity was granted permanent council status, not as a junior member but as an equal. The protocols governing warfare were revised to acknowledge that different species might have different approaches to conflict. Most importantly, the Council's authority to intervene militarily in sovereign territory was severely limited. Ambassador Sarah Chen addressed the Council one final time, 10 years after the war. You built a civilization without predators, she said, looking at the assembled species. You enjoyed 3,000 years of peace because you forgot what made you vulnerable. You forgot that peace without strength is merely a pause before conquest. She gestured to the human delegation behind her. We never had that luxury. We evolved in a world filled with predators. We survived by becoming the apex predator. We fought ourselves for thousands of years because no one else was there to fight. We learned every lesson that evolution and warfare could teach. The Council listened in silence. We did not want to be your warriors, Sarah continued. We wanted to be your friends, your partners, your equals. But when you threatened us, when you tried to force us into submission, we responded the only way we know how, with overwhelming force, with total commitment, with everything we have. She paused. The galaxy has changed. Younger species have more autonomy. The old protocols have been reformed. Real negotiation has replaced enforced compliance. These are good changes. But remember how they came about. Remember that peace is not the natural state of the universe. Peace is something that must be built, defended, and earned. She looked around the chamber one last time. We are humanity. We are predators who learned to build civilizations. We are warriors who learned to make peace. We are the species that Earth forged in fire and blood. We offered you friendship, and when you refused, we offered you war. You chose poorly. Do not make that choice again. The transmission ended, but her words echoed through the galaxy for generations to come. Earth had taken its place among the stars, not as supplicants or conquerors, but as a power that had earned respect through capability. The galaxy had learned its lesson, the hard way, and in the darkness between stars, humanity maintained its vigil, hoping for peace but always prepared for war, because that is what humanity does best.